All right, again, welcome to today's webinar over new features and changes on the USA Test Prep site, some of which are live and some of which are not live yet. Bulk of the webinar is going to be over some basic layout kind of interface changes, which are not live yet. Those will probably go live end of this week or very beginning of next week for mostly what I'm going to go over. So first, I just want to go through what those changes are, and then at the second portion of the webinar, I'll log in into a sample account, just like what your account looks like, and go through what it actually looks like if you are logged in. So the teacher homepage is getting revamped a little bit, and it might be easier if I just actually go to the screenshot of that, because here's kind of the outline of some things that have changed. But to give you some context, let me show the actual page and then explain what has been updated. Again, it's not anything very major for your homepage, so most of what you're used to is going to be here and not take much getting used to at all. Really what has changed is over here on the right, we've moved our help link here. That used to be in the top right corner of the screen. So now the top right corner is just the log out link instead of need help. So that's been moved here. And the account information link, that was something previously located in this area of your homepage, but it made more sense to move it here. And account information is a great place to go if you've never checked it out. You can look at your school's usage by content area and just some statistics, and that's open to anybody, whether you have an admin account or not. Everybody has that account information. Then badges were just reduced a little bit, shrunk in size, and moved to clean up the page. We also changed out all of the icons for your classes, and we reordered these. So this will look a little bit different than what you're used to, whereas right now they're ordered differently and they look differently. So we have headings so you can actually see what they are. You don't have to hover over them anymore to figure out what those mean. And we ordered them to where the most frequently used ones are going to be on the left. So your gradebook and progress report. Those two are the ones that most teachers go to. So they're no longer in the middle. They're kind of on the end here on the left. And then the little gear icon that you've traditionally had for each class is being replaced by a different icon. Still does the same thing, but it's been renamed to class management to better communicate what that's for. That's where you can go in and add students to your class. You can see your student list. You can log in as any of your students through there or make changes to your class name or what content areas your class is associated with. So those are the main changes on the teacher homepage. Again, nothing too drastic. You'll also notice this Help with Classes button. You'll see that on a couple different tabs on the site where we added that because we have some help videos on the site, but you have to go into the help section right now to find them. So these videos are going to be right here, very easily accessible. You click on that Help with Classes button and it will have any video associated with classes right there that you can watch. So it just makes it more convenient. So hopefully that will be a helpful thing. And again, if you're on your account right now, you're not going to see what I'm looking at because these are the changes that have not gone live yet, but are coming later on this week. Then on the Benchmarks tab, we renamed and kind of redid a few things as well. And let me go ahead and get to the screenshot. Again, I am going to share the presentation with you in an email afterwards, so you'll get all of this sent to you. The Benchmarks tab, you're going to notice some additional icons here. Previously, the old page, we had the, and actually let me pull up an old page really quickly so you can go ahead and see the difference. Okay, so here is the current benchmark page. So you have the edit, results, deactivate buttons, and the X. And our team really just felt like the text buttons just took up a lot of room. There's no need to have that large text button there. So you'll see in the new layout, those have been replaced with just some icons that communicate exactly what those buttons were. And we added a few as well. So the edit is a little pencil icon, and anytime that you see that pencil, the edit grayed out, that means either you already have at least one student result so that the content of that benchmark can't be edited any longer, or it could be a district benchmark, or it could be a shared benchmark that you're not the creator for. So, shared benchmarks are very popular on our site. They're a great common assessment tool, but only the creator teacher is the one who can edit that benchmark. So if you see that pencil grayed out, that's why. And if you click on it, you'll get a message that there's either already results for it or that it can only be edited by the creator. And then the deactivate button was replaced by a lock. And this will hopefully help clear up some confusion that we've always had with that deactivate button, because previously, even though we gray out the name of that benchmark, just the whole deactivate, activate terminology was a little bit confusing. So the lock should make that much more clear. All you have to do is just click on the lock, and if it turns that teal color, the assignment is locked down for students. They can't access it. And then all you have to do is just click on the lock, and it will unlock it and reactivate it. So hopefully that will make a lot more sense if you ever need to just turn an assignment or a benchmark off or on. And then the two new icons we added here are assign, because when you go to your benchmarks tab to create a benchmark, you also have to assign it when you're done. It's kind of a two-step process. And so previously you had to go into this options menu. Again, here's the old one. So you had to go into options and go to assign. So we just pulled it out of options and made it its own icon so it's quicker to get there. Oops, let me go back. And then the other big one we pulled out was settings, because this is one that teachers go to a lot. And again, it's just to save you the step of having to go into options, go down to settings, and then change whatever you need to there. So that step's been eliminated. You just click directly on that settings. One minor thing that we changed, just to better communicate this, is your date column previously just said date. And so some teachers thought it was the date that maybe it was assigned or the date that it's due, but that reflects the date that benchmark was created. So we just added created to clear that up as well. And then you have the help with benchmarks button, where if you click on that, you'll get a bunch of videos related to benchmarking. All right, and then the next tab that got a very similar update is the assignments tab. And pretty much what we did with benchmarks, we did here as well. So you have, the old layout of the site where you have the text buttons with edit, deactivate, results. So that was changed to where now you have the lock for deactivate. You have your settings pulled out over here. The edit button, which again is grayed out if students have already started completing the assignment. And there's no more results button. So you don't have to click on results. Instead, if you have students who have already finished the assignment, the number completed, so here it's 5 out of 6, is hyperlinked. You can click directly on there to get your results. So it just cleans it up a little bit. Makes it more user-friendly, and especially with settings. I mean, that's really the big thing that we wanted to pull out here, because let's say you need to go into an assignment and you need to add a student or you need to change the end date. There's been a lot of confusion in the past where a teacher will go to edit, and even though we have this message, some teachers in a hurry, you may not have time to read over it carefully, and they might click duplicate by accident to assign it to new students. and then they end up with multiple of the same assignment. So we wanted to really make settings obvious, because that's where you go to make changes like the end date, or if you need to add another class or other students to it, that's where you'd want to go. So that's just more convenient now with the new layout. All right, now the student homepage also got a few changes, and the student homepage is actually quite a bit different. So let me pull up the old one. Let me go ahead and go to the new one. Okay, so here is the new student homepage. Just to show you the old one really quickly. Here's the student's homepage. They have their assignments with the due date, what type of assignment it is, the teacher name, the class period. All of that is just kind of clumped together. So we wanted to break that out into different columns to where it's really easy for students to better see that information. So now students have a separate due date column. So that way they don't have to look through all the information to find the due date. It's right there. And they can sort either newest or oldest just by clicking on it. If they have a date that's pink, which I do here, that indicates that the assignment is past due, because we do allow students to complete assignments up to 2 months after the due date. So if that assignment is not locked or deactivated, they can still work on it up to that point. But you can, of course, lock it at any point, and then they will not be able to complete that assignment. We also just updated the icons to represent the different assignment types. And then the assignment name is its own column. The teacher in class has its own column. And then notes, that's where if an assignment is locked, it's going to let them know that. Previously, if you were to deactivate or lock an assignment, it would remove it from the student page altogether, and they just wouldn't even see it. So we felt like it would be better if students still saw that assignment, but they figure out why they're not able to work on it. So it's very clear that it's been locked by their teacher, and they'll just have to wait until that's available again to complete. Also, students have a separate tab for their messages. Before, their messages and their assignments were all mixed together. So that's been pulled out and separated. And then also the student homepage, we had these 5 buttons right here on the right. Those same 5 buttons are there. We just made it look a little bit nicer by putting them all together in a box, and the order is different as well. Graded work is kind of the top button that students click on to look at a history of everything they've done on the site. So that one's at the very top. It's no longer in the middle, to where they can get to it a little bit easier. And if they have any saved tests, that little number of how many tests they currently have saved is still showing up here. It's just a visual cue that they have a test to complete. And then we also made it more obvious for students that they can switch between 2 different views for their assignments. They can switch between a list and a calendar view. So if students are more visually inclined, they might want to switch to the calendar versus the list. All right, so those were the changes that again are coming later this week that are not live. The next 2 changes I'm going to quickly talk about are already on the site, so this may not be new information to you. You've hopefully already noticed these things. The first one is how retry missed questions is handled. In the past, and this was a change that went live late last spring, in the past, if students were allowed to retry missed questions, they would get their result page, and then they had a little button to retry, and the problem oftentimes was that students did not see that button, and they would go somewhere else on the site, and then they would no longer be able to retry. So we wanted to make it very clear as soon as students finished an assignment that they could retry their missed questions if that is a setting that you have allowed for your assignments. So now as soon as the student finishes, before they ever get to the result page, they automatically get these 2 buttons, and they have to decide right then and there, do they want to retry missed items? And they very clearly say yes or no. So that puts it in their face to where they can't miss it. And I think that has helped a lot of the problems with students not knowing that they could have retried their missed items, because it shows up right here in their face to where they have to make that choice. And then something else that we just recently changed within the past couple weeks are the steps for creating and editing a class. When you create a class, you can now share that class with another teacher when you create it. It used to be that you had to go through the steps to make the class and then you could go back and share it, but now it's just streamlined all together where you can share the class with somebody else as you are creating it. And then we also changed the interface for adding students to make that more user-friendly. That was kind of a clunky process before, a little bit tedious, so that's been improved. And then if you're adding new students to a class where you've already started giving out assignments, we've also improved that interface to where it's a lot more user-friendly. And again, I'll show you what these things look like for what I'm talking about. And let me go ahead and go into the site now so I can get logged in. And then I know there are questions that have already come through. Again, I'm not ignoring the questions. I just want to address those at the end to make sure I get through everything. Okay, so first I'm just going to log in as a sample teacher to show these changes, a couple things about them. And again, this is not live yet. It's still in our testing phase, but it should roll out at the end of this week or early next week. So again, here's the classes tab. You can see those updated icons compared to the current view. In the current view, again, just to remind you, you have these icons, but we never had an actual label over what they were. You had to hover to see. And again, we took the most popular ones, the progress report and the grade book, and just moved those out to the front here. But again, the help with classes, it's just a nice shortcut to some help videos specifically related to classes. And when you click to watch, you know, that's going to open up that video to where you can watch it and then just go back. Okay, then the benchmarks, here's what all of those icons will look like. So when you go to your options menu, the assign and the settings are no longer going to be found there since they've been pulled out. And the lock, again, replaces the deactivate, activate buttons. All you have to do is just click on the lock. You know, in this case, I have a shared benchmark, so it's just giving me a warning that if I deactivate it, any other teachers who need to use it will not be able to. And so as soon as you click on the lock, it's going to turn it into that teal color and gray out the name so that you can see that it's locked. And then all you have to do to unlock it is just click it back. So very easy to be able to use that. Also, to see your results, you just click on the hyperlinked number of results there. So there's no more results button. Just click on the number to see those. And again, same thing with the help with benchmarks. That will open up any video related to our benchmarking system. And then assignments is the same kind of thing. You have your lock, you have your settings, which allows you to instantly change the end date or who that assignment is assigned to without having to go into that options menu. So that will hopefully help save some time. And then again, your results are just clickable right here rather than having a separate results button. All right, now the other thing I wanted to show is within classes, we go into this class management page. We formerly called this manage class, or you may know it by the little gear icon here. So it's going to take you to the same place where you can, you know, add secondary teachers. You can change what content areas you have associated with your class as well. But what's changed here is the process for editing a class, or if you're creating a class from scratch, you have 4 steps now. It used to be only 2, but we wanted to, again, add in the secondary teacher option here. So you can do that in the very first step. You have a separate tab for your content areas. Step 3 is where you can add students. And this was previously not as user-friendly as it is now. Now what you can do is you have checkboxes for students. You can actually just click on the row. If you want to add them, you can expand up to 100 per page. You can sort by grade level. You can do a search by name. So there's lots of different ways that this was improved. But personally, I think the nicest is you can just click, right there. You don't have to click on the little add link like you had to in the past. And so once you've added students, when you go to this step, if you have any assignments that you have already assigned to that class, you're going to see what they are here, and you can select specific assignments or you can select all of them. And I'm not sure how many of you remember, but before, with our old system, every time you added a student, you would get a pop-up. Do you wish to add assignments? And you'd have to click all of them for each student. So this is going to assign it to all of these students in step 3 who you added to your class. And then it's just one step to add assignments to all of those students. So that is a huge improvement from what it used to be. And then in order for an assignment to show up here, it does have to be unlocked. So if you currently have an assignment that is locked, it's not going to show here to add. And it can't be past due. So if you needed to add a locked assignment or a past due assignment to your class, you would have to do that through your assignments tab. All right, and then finally, let me go to the student homepage and point that out, a few things here. And again, you can always log in as any of your students on the site by going to that class management or manage class page, and there is a login link by each of your students' names if you ever wanted to check something out. But again, here's what the new look is going to be for the students. So here are those links that have been reordered up here. So graded work is now at the very top. And graded work is the best place to go to look at what has the student done, because this is a direct reflection of what's in our database. So if you can't find a result in graded work, then it just does not exist. The student didn't do it for whatever reason, because if it's in here, then that you can be assured that this is totally accurate for what the student has completed on the site. And there is a default date filter. So if you click search, you'll see it searching for everything since August 1st of this year. So if you needed to go back and look at something, you can always change that to go back as far as you need to. Okay, then students, they have their nice list of assignments now, to where this makes a lot more sense to have it all separated out to where they can very easily see the due date. Again, they can click on the due date to have that sort, either oldest or newest at the top. They can see which assignments are locked by their teacher. If it's a group assignment, they have that option to expand those as well. So lots of different things here that students have that will hopefully help them better manage those assignments. And then they also have a separate messages tab. So if you send messages through the site, students can go here to see those instead of it being mixed in with all of this. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is this view. Some students didn't realize this was always here because it wasn't quite as obvious. Students can view their assignments in a large list, or they can switch to a calendar. So that way, if students are maybe overwhelmed by the list, they can look at it. Here it's a little bit more visual. The assignments are on the calendar according to due date, and then they can just click on it to begin. So that's something to point out, if students haven't discovered that quite yet. All right, and then finally, one thing I forgot to mention, it's very small, but We used to have a home link right here for students and teachers. We've now renamed that to resources because we had some teachers and students not really sure what these tabs are. So that is to help everyone be aware that to access resources, you can go into your content area. So if you need to get back to the home page, if you're somewhere else on the site, you can no longer click here. It's no longer the home link. You can either click on the little home here on the left, or you can always click on the USA Test Prep logo, and that'll take you back into your home page. All right, so I know it's about 2:26, so we're at the end of time that I wanted to go through all the information in case there are people who need to get logged off and get back to class or whatever else you need to get done for the day. I am going to stick around because I know there's quite a few questions, so I'm going to start going through those. But if you need to go ahead and log off, please feel free to do so. I'm going to send out an email which will have a link to the recording and the presentation. So just be on the lookout for both of those things later this afternoon.